I was having your boy Rico from RicoScores, and man, it is time to dive into a lot of the crazy advanced stats, random rankings, grades, just all kinds of crazy stuff. I promise you, by the end of this video, you're gonna learn something. I guarantee it. I guarantee by the end of this video, you're gonna hear a stat or a viewpoint on something that you just never thought of. I have so many stats as far as like Sam Howell and how most of the sacks that he's taken are his fault and not the offensive lines. Is this offensive line actually a top 15 offensive line in the NFL? We got a lot of stats to back that up. We got to talk about Jahan Dotson struggling so far this year. Terry McLaurin balling though. Jameson Crowder balling. And just so many random stats. And even on top of Sam Howell, a lot of these sacks being his fault, how great he's been despite that. Like in spite of all of the sacks he's been taking, how he's still going out there and putting up crazy numbers in every other way is insane. Like literally taking sacks and holding on to the ball too long is his Achilles heel. Outside of that, this man has the potential to literally be a top 12, top 10 quarterback. And again, the stats back that up. So we're going to dive into all of those stats and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned. We're back to the regular scheduled programming. So I will be coming out with a preview video for this upcoming matchup against the Giants tomorrow, as in Thursday. And of course, be coming out with videos leading all the way up to the actual live stream. I will be live streaming the entire game against the Giants, all 4 quarters, all of that. And then we'll have like the post-game live stream call-in show where you can call in, you voice your opinions. Everybody has like a 3-minute timer. That will probably either be after the game, like at night, or the next day. Usually like Mondays seems to just be the best days to end up doing those call-in shows. Of course, I'm gonna do like a full 30 minute to hour-long breakdown of the game after the Giants game as well. Y'all see the pattern with how this content's coming out, and I'm trying to work on finding more time so that I can start doing film session stuff to get a hold of some all 22 footage and like really break down things like, is Emmanuel Forbes really struggling as bad as we think, or is it like in his head? You know, things like that. We can start to take a look at tape, stuff like that. Are our linebackers actually turning a corner, and are they actually better, or was that Falcons game just an isolated incident? Film sessions like that. So we're gonna take a look at all of that and more. Stay tuned. Without further ado, sorry for the long intro. Let's get it.
You tell your family you're gonna be a commander.
All right, first of all, I don't know, maybe y'all haven't noticed, or maybe a lot of y'all just don't care, but I finally set aside a few hours to upload a lot more videos of the dogs. Because I mean, I'm always taking videos of them, but I've just never sat down and took the time to like get all of those videos from my phone to one computer to the other computer to where I record this, for y'all to be able to see it. So if you pay attention now during my videos and live streams, I will have a lot more new videos. I uploaded like 40 or 50 more, like just new videos of Brody and Aja and whatever else the foolishness they be getting into. So if you care about the dog stuff, that's updated as well. But let's go ahead and get to the actual stuff. Well, first of all, let's talk about Sam Howell. We're going to talk about the negative of Sam Howell first, and then we're going to get to the positives, because that's just the type of person I prefer to end on a positive note when we're talking about each player if I can. So let's go ahead and get it out the way. The one negative that he's been dealing with is sacks, which is so weird because typically with a quarterback, you worry about them being able to read the field, inaccuracy, all kinds of stuff other than like them taking sacks. And right now, Sam Howell is literally on the road to be the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. So it's not only just a weakness, it's like the weakness. It's like a huge weakness. He's like the worst at that in NFL history on pace so far. So it's something we got to work on, but still at the end of the day, it's his only true weakness. Everything else, this man is hooping. We're going to dive into that though. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that JP Finley pointed out. So if NFL teams don't score roughly 80% of the drives when a QB takes at least 1 sack, and the Commanders have taken 34 sacks, it's actually pretty remarkable that Washington's offense is 15th in scoring. And if you take a step back and really think about that, that's amazing. Again, throughout the entire NFL, if you just put together every NFL team, all 32 of them, and then look at the drives, the percentage of drives where people score when they do take a sack and when they don't, basically, if you take a sack, there's only a 20% chance that you'll score. And somehow we've taken 34 sacks and we're still 15th in scoring. That's an anomaly. That's an outlier. That's ridiculous. That means Sam Howell, even though he's the most sacked quarterback so far through 6 games in NFL history, the fact that we're still putting up top 15 offense numbers is incredible. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, it makes you think, like, if we could just stop that, if we can fix the sacks, fix the holding the ball too long or running into sacks when you have a clean pocket, we can fix that. This guy's gonna be incredible, man. I mean, let's dive deeper into it. John Kahn. Of the 26 drives in which Sam Howell has been sacked, the Commanders have scored touchdowns on 2 of them, field goals on 4. Also, 13 punts, 3 missed field goals, 2 interceptions, turnover on downs, and 1 defensive touchdown. So Howell has been sacked twice on 8 drives, and that's resulted on 5 punts, turnover on downs, interception, and field goal. So literally, like, when you get sacked, it's almost impossible to score. We just don't score. We're more likely to throw an interception than to score a touchdown. We've thrown just as many interceptions as touchdowns we've had on drives that Sam Howell's been sacked. We've made more field goals. We've missed more field goals. Like, literally, once Sam Howell gets sacked at least once on a drive, the drive is pretty much over. Again, to be top 15 in scoring in spite of all of that is incredible, dog. And again, that last statistic, just to read it again, when Sam Howell is sacked more than once in a drive, at the minimum twice out of 8 drives, he's had 5 punts, a turnover on downs, an interception, and a field goal. So far, the best result of the 8 drives that he's been sacked more than once on, the best result has been a field goal make. That's it. That's as good as it gets once he gets sacked at least twice in one drive. So basically, if Sam Howell gets sacked twice in one drive, assume we're not scoring points, basically. So we just got to do better, man. Those are just reasons why we have to improve on that. We're winning in spite of it, but just imagine how much better we would be if we didn't have to deal with it. Another stat, of the 34 sacks allowed, Pro Football Focus's charting attributed just 14 to the blockers, with 12 of them being the offensive line. I think the other 2 probably like running back or tight end. So technically, the offensive line is only responsible for 12 of the 34 sacks that Sam Howell has taken. Sam Howell himself is responsible for 20 of the 34 sacks. That's crazy. By comparison, Washington's quarterbacks took 48 sacks last season, and 33 were blamed on the offensive line. The majority of them. And this year is the exact opposite. It's mostly on the quarterback. Even with many of this season's sacks not pinned on specific blockers, right tackle Andrew Wiley and center Nick Gates, both of whom signed as free agents in March, have allowed 4 sacks each, tied for 8th most in NFL. Again, most of those are technically Sam Howell's fault. Left guard Sadiq Charles has only allowed 2, but he has allowed the 13th most pressures in the NFL with 18, and Wiley is 6th in 21 pressures allowed. So that's not good. I mean, again, it's blame to go all around. You can blame the offensive line for the reasons I've just giving you. You can blame Sam Howell for a lot of it. We're going to dive deeper into that. You can also blame receivers not getting open. Maybe the receivers not getting open is probably Eric Bieniemy's fault. So you can blame the receivers, Eric Bieniemy, offensive line, Sam Howell. There's a lot of blame to go around. There's definitely a blame pie, but Sam Howell's just the majority of that blame pie for sure. Also, look at this graphic right here. Shouts out to N. Greenberg on Twitter. He pointed out the fact that here's a quick visual about how many more drives the Commanders are dealing with 1 or more sacks than the rest of the league. The 1-5 Giants are the only team within the ballpark. You can see us all the way at the very bottom right, and the Giants 2 rows up. We're the only ones, like, our charts even relatively look like that. Like, nobody else is even really close. I guess the Bears are like the closest 3rd place, but it's bad, y'all. This is really bad. If you don't want to, if you're not good with numbers, if you need a visual representation, there you go right there. Matter of fact, if you need another visual representation, look at this. So this chart is crazy because the far left means that sacks come when the O-line is getting beat really fast, which means it's mostly on the O-line. When you're on the far right, that means that a lot of these sacks are coming from the quarterback's end, because this is a time to pressure on plays where the quarterback has been sacked in 2023. So these only matter if there's pressure and the pressure leads to a sack. So the Patriots and Chargers offensive line allow pressure the quickest on plays where the quarterback has been sacked, and the Cardinals and Eagles allow pressure the slowest on plays where their quarterback has been sacked, and we're right there 3rd. And if you look at everybody in the top, just look at everybody on the right side, we have 34. Look how big of an outlier we look next to everybody else. You have 14, 11, 6, and 5 around us, and then we got a huge 34 right there. This is incredible, man. This is crazy. Also, JP Finley brought up another great point. Our concern with Sam Howell isn't that he won't just get better while taking sacks. It's also, I mean, because I think he can still get better, and he's shown that he's improved even in spite of all of the sacks that he's taken. But the problem is health. Consider this. Daniel Jones is second in NFL in sacks taken with 29. He's missed the Giants' last game with an injury and will probably miss his upcoming game against us. We'll see. Third is Justin Fields, being sacked 28 times. He's expected to miss time with a hand injury. So Sam Howell is number one in sacks. The fact that he's not hurt is incredible, and we can't just keep expecting him to keep bouncing back up off that ground and continuing to play at the rate that he's taking sacks. Again, he's on pace to be the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. He's number one right now in the NFL this season. And number two and number three are both hurt and gonna miss time. So it's incredible that the guy that's number one hasn't. Hey, man, Sam Howell, you got to chill out. But again, let's get to some positives, because Sam Howell hasn't been all bad. That's like his one true and only severe weaknesses. Right now, that's his Achilles heel. Everything else is fantastic. Big time throw rate, 4.8%. That's 11th in the NFL. So he's 11th in the NFL at making big time throws deep down the field, close coverage, all that type of stuff. Turnover worthy play rate, 2.8%. That's not terrible. He's 20th in the NFL there. Adjusted completion percentage, 78.5%. He's 8th. So if you're looking at just base surface stats, he's not 8th, because a lot of the time he's throwing the ball out of bounds, throwing it away somewhere to where like the defense can't make a play on it, to not throw an interception, to basically just live to fight another play type of stuff. So when you adjust for that, and it's like pure throws that like he's supposed to make, he's 8th in the NFL as far as accuracy goes. Like when you dive into actual advanced statistics and look at the actual game instead of just being a stat watcher. Also, average depth of target, 8.2 yards per throw. That's 16th in the NFL. That's not bad. So right now, he's throwing the 16th furthest per throw out of the NFL, and yet he's the 8th most accurate. That's actually incredible right there. That's amazing. Moving on, some more stats. Sam Howell currently has more completions than Tua Tagovailoa and Jared Goff. He has more passing yards than Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. He has more passing touchdowns than Jalen Hurts and my Georgia Bulldog Matthew Stafford. He has a better passer rating than any QB in his class with a 90.1 other than Brock Purdy. And then he just has a ridiculous team around him, because we've seen as soon as he loses star players, as soon as he doesn't have a bunch of Pro Bowlers around him, he doesn't look the same. We still got to see if Brock Purdy can play without all of those Pro Bowlers. And he's also doing it while, of course, being the most sacked quarterback in the league with 34. What a 5th round pick, man. Also, Howell ranks 5th in completion percentage above expectation, 4.6, in between Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. That's great company to be in. Again, he is 5th in the NFL out of all starting quarterbacks in completion percentage above expectation. So that means that he's really accurate in dangerous situations, whether receivers covered, he's double covered, he's covered well by whatever. It's just really difficult throws to make. They're not expecting you to complete those throws. He's 5th in the NFL at completing throws that you shouldn't complete. So I'm telling you, bro, he's so fantastic at things that's hard to teach. Is ridiculous. And then just this past week 6, in that game against the Falcons, he had the second highest passer rating in the NFL. The only person that had a higher passer rating than him was Tua Tagovailoa. Just below Sam Howell was Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. So, hey, man, I'm telling you, Sam Howell is doing some amazing things, but this sack problem is serious. Not only just for wins, but also his health, man. Again, that is very startling that the guys that are second and third most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL are both hurt, and Sam Howell's number one. I mean, how long can we keep this up, man? Moving on. Speaking of sacks and Sam Howell, whose fault it is and stuff like that, have some really interesting offensive line numbers for y'all. Because via Pro Football Focus offensive line rankings, right now our offensive line is 9th in pass blocking grade overall amongst the whole offensive line, and we're 12th in pass blocking efficiency. I mean, I know Pro Football Focus, these are grades, these are not stats, so it's a matter of opinion and stuff like that, but that's crazy. But don't just take Pro Football Focus's word for it. Look at this chart right here. When you take pass protection ratings and you do like a composite between Pro Football Focus and SIS and ESPN, we are ranked the 11th best pass blocking offensive line in the NFL, only behind the Chiefs, Lions, Browns, Vikings, Raiders, Eagles, Buccaneers, Dolphins, Packers, and Bills, man. It's crazy. Look at another chart right here. Look what this offensive line is doing. Again, if you're not good with stats and numbers, here's like an exact picture of what's going on so you can see in reference. As far as pass protection from Pro Football Focus and ESPN, Pro Football Focus grade is the x-axis, and then ESPN is the y-axis. We're up there. We're up there in the company of the Dolphins, Bills, Raiders, Eagles, Packers, Vikings, Lions, and Buccaneers, which is pretty synonymous with the previous chart that we just looked at, the previous graphic. Moving on. Also, Cornelius Lucas, I've already told y'all that he had 29 pass blocking snaps, no sacks allowed, no pressures allowed either, and had an 89.2 pass blocking grade. But I didn't know that was second out of all offensive linemen in week 6. He had the second highest pass blocking grade out of any offensive lineman in the entire NFL in week 6. That's phenomenal in itself. Also, Samuel Cosmi, even though he's kind of had a down couple of past few games, like last 2-3 games, he hasn't played to the level of I expect from him. At the same time, he's surrendered pressure on only 3.5% of his pass plays this season, which is the lowest rate of his career. So technically, as an entire season, he's having the best year of his career. But I mean, a lot of that is attributed to the fact that instead of being a tackle, he's a guard, and defensive tackles don't get as much pressure as edge rushers normally do anyway. His previous best was 6.5%, and again, he's at 3.5% this year. So he's almost double better statistically this season than he's been so far in his career. I'm telling y'all, man, Samuel Cosmi stock going up, man. Stop playing with my boy, bro. That boy's serious. Also, let's get to some interesting stuff with the defensive line. The Commanders defensive line has been running a lot of 5 defensive lineman sets with John Ridgeway in the middle. We'll see whenever Fadarian Mathis, if he ever gets back healthy enough to play at some point this season, if he'll be included in that. Will he rotate in with Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, or will he be that centerpiece, that nose tackle like John Ridgeway? But either way, a lot of people are calling this package the Cinco package, where you have 5 defensive linemen. Technically, it's a 3-4 defense, but if you're running a 4-3 defense and you have 5 defensive linemen out there, I guess they call it a Cinco package, but it's literally just running a 3-4 defense. I mean, literally, like Chase Young and Montez Sweat are standing up out of their stance. I mean, it literally looks like a 3-4. They look like outside linebackers more than defensive ends a lot of the time, especially when we're running this. But either way, let's get to the article from The Athletic. The Commanders have used 5-man defensive fronts plenty before facing the Falcons. They lead the league with 87 such snaps this season, but they were much better doing so on Sunday than they were against the Bears, bro. We did the same thing against the Bears, but the Bears, we were terrible. Against the Falcons, we were great. According to True Media, Washington played a season-high 27 snaps with 5 defensive linemen against run-heavy Falcons. Basically, like I've already told y'all this in my game review a couple of days ago, my hour-long review of every position group and everything. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out now. But basically, you could tell from Jack Del Rio, the game plan was stop the run and let Desmond Ridder beat us. He couldn't, through 3 interceptions. But either way, and what Rivera says is, quote, really a 3-4 defense, unquote. I completely agree. The Cinco package puts a third tackle, primarily John Ridgeway, between Pro Bowlers Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. Pretty much how it goes. Moving on, again, against the Bills, it didn't work because we ran it 24 times against the Bills, 24 snaps. We ran it 27 snaps against the Falcons. Now, yards per play for the Bears, 6. And that's total yards per play. Passing, running, whatever. The Bears were able to get 6 yards every time they snapped the ball. The Falcons were only able to get 2.7. Rushing yards, the Bears had 81, the Falcons only had 51. Yards per carry, the Bears had 4.8, the Falcons had 3. And then net yards per pass, the Bears had 10.7, the Falcons only had 2.6. So even though we shut down their run, their running of 3 yards a carry was even more efficient than their passing of 2.6. So a lot of people are going to look at the fact that we gave up like 400 yards of offense on defense to the Falcons and be like, nah, the defense wasn't good, but they shut stuff down. They were very efficient. They just happened to be on the field too much. That was on our offense more than on our defense for sure. And then the article goes on to say another benefit of the 5-man front against the Falcons was freeing up starting linebackers Cody Barton with 14 tackles and Jamin Davis with 8 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 interception. Along with linebacker / Buffalo nickel, I call it the star position because of my Georgia Bulldogs, Khaleke Hudson. He had 3 tackles and 10 snaps. So that 5 defensive linemen allows those linebackers to stay a little bit more clean and to make more plays. So I'm not surprised when we have our game where we run 5 defensive linemen the most is when our linebackers look their best. I also feel like they just play better. I feel like they played faster. I feel like they were more decisive. They were more aggressive. Most notably, Cody Barton, his biggest weakness right now, we could talk about the coverage, but his biggest weakness is getting blocked 15 yards down the field by a guard. Felt like against the Falcons, he didn't allow that as much. So I feel like some of it is having that fifth defensive lineman on the field more often keeps them clean, but also feel like they just played better, point blank, period, even isolated from how much we ran the Cinco package. And then before we leave defensive line, Chase Young is balling out, man. Right now, over the last 2 weeks, according to ESPN stats and information, defensive end Chase Young has the most pass rush wins with 16 in the entire NFL. Right now, Chase Young, over the past couple of games, has been the best pass rusher in the NFL. He's having a ridiculous season right now, and people aren't really noticing because sadly he isn't able to get a lot of sacks. I already showed y'all again with my hour-long breakdown. It was like an hour and 20-minute breakdown that came out a couple of days ago. I literally showed y'all examples of Chase Young getting held, getting clotheslined, face masked, getting pushed behind the back. And none of those calls were called. I gave y'all 3 examples, and none of them were called. So despite all of that, this man is still statistically the best pass rushing edge rusher in the NFL right now, at least over the past few games. So I'm just hoping that if he keeps that up, eventually, with due time, those are going to start to turn into more sacks rather than just pressures. Now moving on to wide receiver, let's talk about Jahan Dotson and the struggles right now. What's scary right now for Jahan Dotson, he has plenty of time to turn around, but he's played exactly half the number of games from his rookie season, because remember last year he was out a couple of games, and the receptions and targets are literally on track. It's basically like half, almost, like literally almost exactly half, but the yards and the touchdowns are way off, nowhere near half, because he has 35 receptions on 61 targets from 2022 through 12 games. In 2023 through 6 games, he has a little less than half those receptions with 17, and then a little more, one more than half of the targets, 61 targets to 31. So 35 to 17 receptions, 61 targets to 31 targets. But yards last year, 523 yards, 7 touchdowns. He has 140 yards and 1 touchdown this year. So you can multiply both of those by 2, and you're not going to get the 523 and 7 touchdowns. Again, he's on track as far as targets and receptions, but as far as being productive yards and touchdown, he's not there. And a lot of it is his fault. We could blame Eric Bieniemy a little bit. We could blame maybe Sam Howell not seeing him sometimes, but a lot of it is bad. I mean, and it starts with this. His only target, because every other game this season, he's gotten at minimum 4 targets. A lot of games he's had like 4 or more. 5 or more, like 6 or 7, 8, stuff like that. But he had this one targeted against the Falcons. He dropped it. They said, you're not getting the ball no more the rest of this game. This is such a minimal error type of game. We make one more mistake and we probably lose. We have no time for people dropping open passes. Here's that one target he got, and then he dropped it.
First black female assistant positional coach in the NFL, and Terry McLaurin told us that she's willing to just do anything for these guys, extra reps, whatever it takes. She's that. And
to even break it down advanced statistics wise, in games played, his target share is pretty similar, with 15.5% this season versus 15.9% last season. The big difference, he's had only 1 explosive catch in 6 games this season, whereas last season he averaged more than 1 a game. So that's terrible. He's had 1 explosive catch in 6 games. Last year he was averaging more than 1 every game. That's insane. Like, Jahan Dotson, we got to get you back right. But I agree with my boy Mark Bullock over there in the UK. Make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube. Subscribe to his Substack. It's worth it. He does great film sessions on everything for the Commanders. Shouts out to him out there in the UK. His Twitter is @MarkBullock. He says, writing about Jahan Dotson for a post tomorrow, but the TLDR is people are too worried about him. Some saying his route running is bad and he's taking a step back. Not true at all. He's doing fine. Targets and catches will come. I completely agree. I think if he just keeps doing what he does, but just actually catches the passes thrown towards him, he'll be just fine and right back to where he was. It's like such a small margin of error because he's basically getting just as open as he was last year. The passes are coming his way just as much, but the just slight difference of catching it and not catching it has everybody panicking as if like he's just a first round bust already. And it's not that bad. I think he'll be straight. Ron Rivera even said in his press conference yesterday, he said it's just a matter of time to see more production from Jahan Dotson. Because again, it's not like he's not getting targeted. The Falcons game was the only time we just, all right, you drop 1 pass, we're done with you. We kept trying that Eagles game. Then he had that game-tying 2-point conversion catch, I believe, or the game-tying touchdown catch. It was either one. Either way, he had a really clutch catch against the Eagles while having a terrible game up to that point. But In positive news, Terry McLaurin's 320 catches and 4,542 yards in his career both ranked second for the most over a player's first 5 seasons with Washington. He's chasing Gary Clark in both categories, 340 catches for 5,378 yards. Really interesting, man. Terry McLaurin chasing Commanders, well, burgundy and gold history. And then also, shouts out to our boy Jameson Crowder. He's technically a receiver, but this is a special teams award. But since he's a receiver, I wanted to go ahead and throw it in there since we're talking about Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. And he does have a catch this season. Jameson Crowder was named the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week with a, well-deserved, because his 61-yard punt return set up a touchdown to take the lead 14-10. And that literally changed the game. We never lost the lead after that. After that, we never lost the lead. He literally sparked us basically winning that game. Crowder's punt return was the longest of any NFC player in Week 6. That's why he won it. The return was the longest for a Washington player since October 9th, 2016. That's crazy, bro. That's insane. We need better production from our special teams than that. Crowder becomes the 5th player in burgundy and gold franchise history to win the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week honor multiple times, joining Brian Mitchell, punter Matt Turk, kicker Dustin Hopkins, and punter Tress Way. Elite company to be in, man. Maybe not all the names, but hey, you do anything in a similar fashion as Brian Mitchell, you're doing something right. You doing what B Mitch doing, you're doing something right. Moving on, also, this is really interesting. Over the last decade, teams that start 3-3 have about a 30% chance of making the playoffs. Now that changed with a 17-game schedule. Last year, 6 teams made the playoffs that started 3-3, including 49ers and Bengals that went to conference title games. As you can see on the screen, it's kind of different now because we do have an extra game for you to get that extra win, that extra chance to make the playoffs now that we have 17 games a season rather than 6. But historically showing, when you're 3-3, over the past 10 year, over the last decade, you basically have like a 30% chance of making the playoffs if you're 3-3. You have a 12% chance of winning the wild card round. You have a 6% chance of winning the divisional round. You have a 1.2% chance of winning the conference championship and going to the Super Bowl. But so far, nobody who started the season 3-3 has won a Super Bowl. So does that mean our Super Bowl dreams are over with this season? I don't think so. Let's go out there and be the first one. But, there's no real opinion on that. Those are just stats. I wanted to give y'all that so y'all can see that. And then y'all base y'all own opinions off of that. Just something I wanted to include in the video since we're looking at advanced stats. But I don't really think it means much. If we just go on a ridiculous run and everything starts clicking, we could be the first team to win a Super Bowl after starting the season 3-3 within the past decade. Moving on, shouts out to Michael Yam for this one. It was crazy to see how many teams struggled offensively this weekend. According to NFL research with this gym, 9 teams won by scoring 20 or fewer points per game in Week 6. Most such teams in a week since 1999. So, hey, man, last week was the closest a bunch of games have been around the NFL since 1999. Really interesting. So we're not the only ones out here struggling, man. We're not the only ones. Again, everything flipped upside down. All the remaining undefeated teams got beat. The Dolphins were down 14-0 to the Panthers at one point. It was a weird week, man. It's okay. Moving on, in really random news, Commanders tried out former Giants linebacker Tate Crowder, Mr. Irrelevant of the 2020 draft, former Penn State safety Jonathan Sutherland as well on Tuesday. We're probably bringing in Tate Crowder just to see, like, hey, man, you got any of them Giants plays, man? You got any of them Giants plays on you? We can really use some Giants plays, man. I know the Giants are pretty sorry right now, but they always find a way. If they don't beat us, at the very least, the game's going to be close. I'm happy that we're bringing in a University of Georgia player, at least taking a look at him. But I'm pretty sure the majority of the reason that we're doing this is that, hey, man, you got any insight on that offense? Any defensive tendencies that we can attack? You know what I'm saying? So maybe we sign him to the practice squad or something. But I highly doubt he'll go into that tryout and perform well enough to even play against the Giants. But you never know. Also, we made a couple of other moves. We released William Bradley King from the practice squad, signed Abdullah Anderson to the practice squad, and released tight end Caden Smith from the reserve injured list, just to give you a random update. But the reason I'm also giving you this update, shouts out to Ben Stan Dig for this, if this is the end here, William Bradley King will be the 3rd of 33 draft picks under Ron Rivera no longer with the organization. You have Antonio Gandy Golden and Keith Ishmael, and now it will be William Bradley King. So he brings up a great point. Is this a level of retention based on great scouting or just biased outcomes? Like, or is this actual great scouting and the other 30 players that Ron Rivera has drafted are actually good enough and worthy to keep? Or is this just, hey man, I drafted them, I don't care how bad they are, we're gonna hold on to them? Who knows? I'll let y'all be the judge of that as well. Also, super random. Right now, the Commanders are second in team odds, according to Sports Betting AG, to be Kirk Cousins' next team. The Patriots are 3-1, and we're tied with the Titans at 4-1. Then it's the Steelers, then the Cardinals, Bears, Colts, Jets, Broncos. Please no, I'm so much happier with Sam Howell. Do not go back to that. Also, super random, James Harden is causing all kinds of chaos. And my whole point of bringing this up is stop distracting our new owner. Our new owner has a lot going on his plate for the Commanders. James Harden, chill out, man. Just stop being selfish. I know they said he was in Houston recently. He's a no-show to the 76ers practice today. Can you just do right so my boy Josh Harris can focus? I know we got Magic Johnson. I know we got Mitchell Rails, Mark Iron, all these other guys. But can you stop distracting my boy Josh Harris? Also, more random news since we're here and we're talking about owners and stuff. Roger Goodell has been extended through March 2027. I know a lot of y'all don't care about that, but why not? And then in super random news, I know it's supposed to be a Commander show, but I just figured I might as well give y'all a bunch of nuggets and random stats and stuff at the end. This is probably the most random one. USC Caleb Williams wants partial ownership from the NFL from the team that will select them in the 2024 draft. That is crazy. They've been making it known, his representatives have been making it known that Williams wants partial ownership of the team that selects him in 2024, all the way going back to July. Additionally, Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers also attempted to secure equity during his contract discussions with the Jets, but the NFL stepped in to say that isn't allowed. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons why this won't happen, but the majority of it is once you let one guy do it, everybody's going to want to do it. So the owners will not let that one owner break to, you know, basically open up the floodgates. I would love it if players could do it, but it's just going to be such a floodgates open type of thing that they're never going to allow that. Because once you allow Caleb Williams to do it, then you're going to have to let every other quarterback or top player coming out of the draft get a little percentage. And then you never know, like, what if Caleb Williams, his first NFL snap, he gets hurt or he just ends up not good? Now he's a part owner in the team for no reason. And again, but the biggest reason why this won't happen is because the NFL are just basically going to hold solidarity together and not let anybody in that room. They're not gonna, once one person does it, everybody's gonna have to do it. NFL's not gonna allow that. They're gonna put pressure on every other owner to make sure they don't allow it, so they don't have to allow it. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button. I'd really appreciate it, man. Shouts out to all of y'all, man. I really appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about all of this. Sam Howell, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, the offensive line, everything, the good and the bad of Sam Howell, Jameson Crowder, everything we talked about, and even the random stuff I just gave you towards the end of the video. Let me know what topics interested you the most, and I'm gonna try to be in the comment section to read and reply to everything if I can. But I just been super busy with both channels and all kinds of stuff going on around the house and stuff too, so I'm doing what I can, but I'm trying to get back to daily content for Street Scores for sure. And then yeah, man, if you want to support the channel, if you appreciate all these videos, again, YouTube is tripping, so right now, if y'all can, I'll take anything y'all willing to give. You feel it in your heart, donate to the $ RicoScores Cash App and the WilliamHC94@gmail.com PayPal. Those are the two options. So if y'all really feel it in your heart to donate, I really appreciate it. I'll make sure I'll shout y'all out in whatever next video or live stream that I do. If you like donate because of a video and not during a live stream where I normally shout people out. Shouts out to my boy Jacob King, or Jacoby, I think it's Jacoby King. Shouts out to the big donation you made a few days ago before I even came. He made it all the way back in Saturday and hadn't made a video in like a week and a half. So big shouts out to you, man, for that donation. I really appreciate y'all, and I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out, man.